Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Rib.
3 days before Christmas.
And it is pretty cool out there. I'm looking at the temperature here. It's been cool all day. Very, very cold
Yes.
out there. And
And for viewer information, our show on Wednesday, Christmas Eve, will be held at 11 a.m., our old broadcast time from
woo,
years ago,
that's right.
because it's
And,
Christmas Eve and everybody has something to do.
and we
So
will, and
instead
we
of trying
will,
to run this as you're making last-minute preparations to meet with your family on Wednesday night, we'll have it at 11 o'clock while you're doing all your preparations during the day.
there you go. And we will be wearing our Christmas hats.
That's for sure.
We'll be wearing our Santa hats, and we'll be dispensing coal out to the city council for which in anticipation of them passing that, taking away our rights.
Speaking of city council, I received the updated agenda. Somebody must have been reading the Weekend Flash, because guess what? They put on the agenda for Tuesday and the ordinance strike down to get rid of the voters' right to control debt. Again, attempting to control your rights. I called a couple of city councilors. Nobody would be committal on whether they're going to support it or not, except for one. And that one was only committal on trying to up the limit, not get rid of it, but up the limit. Because $5 million is nothing.
I'm very disappointed in that.
But I will tell you this much. I got one of them to agree that if it looks like they're going to get rid of it, they're going to object. This way, it goes to the new city council, where all the votes won't be there. This is Joe Camara and Sean Kadim trying to shove it up your ass and make you take it, because it's the end of the year and nobody pays attention. Except
let me clarify that, so I don't have to go down there tomorrow and get thrown out of the place, right?
Nah, I wouldn't say that.
Well, the person who is going to object, can you take that to the bank?
No.
Yeah. No, of course it is. But no, their job is to screw the taxpayer, James. That's what they do. That's why they want to remove that the ability for us to vote. I was going to go down there tomorrow and basically say, I was going to highlight what they've done over the past 6 years. They have basically increased the budget nearly double. The budget went up 90% at least, while the per capita income in the city went up about 0.4%. It hasn't gone up at all in 6 years, although our budget's nearly doubled. They also allowed a $2 million deficit to occur when they would warn 6 years ago it would occur if they allowed the city to do what it did. So all they're looking for is a blank check. And I already had some research. I was gonna go over a little bit with you today. Just tell them, we got Kadim over there, the grand poobah, telling you what his job is, and I can't do my job. Well, you're not doing your job. I'll give you my presentation now, guys. You're not doing your job, Shawnee. Because number one, let me give you two reasons. One, constitutional, which is a law, but the Constitution and the law. First of all, the Constitution clearly states in Part 4 and Part 5, Part 4 tells you, reassures them that the people of the government, not them. Part 5 is clear. There are substitutes and agents at all time and answerable to us at all time. So they want to take away our ability to make them answer for spending like drunken sailors. They want a blank check. And I don't buy, I know like Sean. Sean doesn't live in Fall. He may live in Fall River, but he doesn't, he lives in Seekonk. That's where his brain is. And I'm going to give you a little comparison. So everybody says, oh, you're making up the name. Here they are. This is from the United States, the only source I normally use. It's available. United States Census Bureau. Quick facts. You can go to the page. This is what we're dealing with. Fall River, population, 94,689. Seekonk, 15,912. It's a little tiny, minuscule town. Now let's get to the important stuff. Income and poverty. Median household income in Seekonk, $116,319. Fall River, $53,953. So it's more than double. Okay, now per capita income, and remember, our household income is 53,000 plus. So round it off to 54. Who gives a shit? I'll give them this. I'll give them $70, 67 bucks. All right, make it 54,000. Theirs is 116. You could say 117, but I won't round theirs up just to make it feel closer, but it's not close. It's less than half. But our per capita income is 31,998. 31,000 bucks. It hasn't moved basically in 6 years. Now, their per capita income is 50,340, which is virtually what our household income is. And here's the biggie. Persons in poverty, Fall River, 21%, 20.9%, one of the highest in the state. Seekonk, 4.4. Sean, apples and oranges. Maybe it's cramping your style. Maybe Seekonk doesn't give a shit that if you blow their money on a blank check, because they all got a lot more money than we got around here. But the Constitution clearly states that you're answerable to us at all times. And you're taking away that ability, which I believe is flying in the face of the oath you swore to the Constitution. And the legality of the fact that when you also swore an oath to that Constitution, because you are in the appropriate body that funds everything, you are fiduciaries, the primary fiduciaries of the taxpayer money. And by law, as a fiduciary, you're supposed to be taking care of the taxpayer, not the mayor, not the market rate housing out of town and even in town developers, and everybody.
Not your friends from Seekonk who need a job.
And getting your friends from Seekonk a job. You're not supposed to be doing any of that. You're supposed to be taking care of the taxpayer, which you and the rest of that abysmal council have not done in the last 6 years with Coogan. And you want more power. Well, there might be a 10 taxpayer suit, but if somebody's going to object, I might not bother going down there, and I'll wait till the next council meeting. But I will be very disappointed if the objection doesn't come. That's what should happen. Matter of fact, the new council, there should be an immediate motion to rescind that and re-implement it and get a recount.
But the problem is that they can't do that because they're not on the prevailing side.
Well, you're going to get somebody from the prevailing side.
Yeah, but the problem is the people on the prevailing side want to get rid of that limit. So they're not going to move for a reconsideration.
Well, then maybe they'd have to move for a recall for people if people are pissed off enough. I don't know.
Can't do a recall for 90 days.
I know that. I think I do know that since we ran the last one.
We ran them.
I think I'm pretty goddamn familiar with how you run a recall. But I mean, these people are, these people don't give a shit. And well, don't forget, if you have a new council,
And you have to remember, people like Sean and Linda don't give a shit about a recall because they do well no matter what. They're always in the top of the election.
well,
You
you
don't see
never
Linda
know.
coming in 9.
Yeah, well, you never know if you get the people pissed off enough. And I think they're going to be pissed off enough because the Coogan administration now. Why do you think they want this now? You think the timing is off? Yeah, of course. Because now we're going to get Diamond, and the first thing they're going to do is get rid of their cap, and then they're going to ask for a debt override. So now they'll have a carte blanche to do anything they want. Right now, you think in a city that's this poor, with a 21% poverty rate, with a $31,000 per capita income, do you really believe that saying that you have to at least ask us before you spend $5 million or $20 million in any year is unreasonable? Who the frick in this city's got that kind of money except the people who don't give a shit because they're rich? And that's the problem. So if this is the way you want to run, if this doesn't piss the people off enough to get out, well, I give up. Okay.
Remember, 11,000 people voted.
Remember one
That's
thing.
how much they care.
You wanted to bring the recall up. It all depends. You can run a recall depending on what the people want. Remember, there was no chance that we could win that recall, they said. He had been elected to his third term by 75% of the vote. 75% of the vote. And we had a bigger turnout then than Coogan had. 75% of the vote had a bunch of money, and we dumped him in a year later, December 16th, a day that shall live in infamy for many reasons, by a 70% margin. 70% of the people who voted that election voted him out. They voted for other people. So if the people get pissed off enough, anything can happen. But again, we get back to the old, Annalise Chow, I haven't seen you in a while. It's up to the people, always. Just like in a recall, it's up to the people.
The problem is that the people aren't going to be affected by this blank check ordinance until it's too late. And then they won't give a shit because it's going to happen. And it's going to happen under their nose. Like it's done for years.
You and I have to disagree about that. It's always about the people aren't going to do anything. People aren't going to do that. And my attitude is test the people, see what they'll do, see how much shit they're going to eat. And if they want to eat the shit, there's nothing you can do. And I disagree with you can't say you can't have a recall. You shouldn't have a recall because we got Sam Sutter or something like this, and look what we got later. It doesn't matter. You got the guy you wanted to get out. You sent the message that you could get people out. The problem with recalls is, ours was the only successful one in history. The fact is that the people are going to keep it up. They threw Sutter out. Over a $10 fee. And actually, in reality, it worked for that short time because you know something, whether people want to agree with it or not, Jazel wasn't running the city badly. He was like the reverse Robin Hood. He stole from the rich and gave to himself, but he was running the city pretty well. It's what happened after Jazel left. The apathy, because of people not getting it. My philosophy is you throw them out every year. And that's we got one recall and everybody thinks, well, yeah, because you proved you could have one recall. You can now, everything's fixed now. Politicians are going to learn. Politicians only learn when you bounce their ass out after one term if they don't promote. And if people won't do that, well, like once said, he was Yeah, well, again, uh, James, we're only as good as our government. If our government doesn't control the city manager, let's be conspiracy theorists. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that we get the charter and we have a city manager. Think of this horrifying thought. We got fundamentally the same city council that we got now, and they make Sean Kadim the city manager. They'll say, "Oh, look, he's got the experience. He's run Seacock. He was a city administrator in Fall River. He's got it. Look, we'll hire him, and we know him, and he knows the city." Yeah, and look what he's done in the last 6 years on the city council. Spend like a drunken freaking sailor. So it's all the government of the people require. Put people in there, and if they don't perform, you got to get to the polls. How? Well, we almost did it. Fudging what?
Numbers.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I wasn't reading stuff. Yeah, that's all they ever do. If they've never gotten an accurate number in their life, I mean, it's intentional. It's absolutely intentional. And that should be objected to.
And Jimmy, if the city council does repeal the ordinance, yes, the voters could place a referendum question on the ballot to bring it back, even bring it back more restrictively. But do you want to take the time to go out and get 15,000 signatures, filing with the city council after getting an initial 3,000 signatures, and letting the city council say, yes, you can go forward with it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? It's a bigger problem than to nip the problem in the bud.
And I agree with that. But if worse came to worse, it is an option. But as you said, who's going to do the work? I mean, I don't know. It's a lot of work. It's not just wanting to do it. It takes a lot of work.
Currently, there is a proposed 32 questions on the 2026 ballot for the people to vote on. And the city wants to put on the 2026 ballot the question for a Type E charter. I had a conversation with Michelle Dion telling her there is going to be 32 questions on the 2026 ballot. Do you really think the voters are going to go through them all just to get to the Type B charter question? I say propose it under a special ballot. We'll pay for it, yes, but that'll be the only thing on the ballot for people to pay attention to. And I think we're going to have to do that. Otherwise, it's going to get lost with the 32 other questions.
Well, I mean, I'm still not confident we'll have a big turnout in the midterms. I mean, Trump was the magnet for the turnout, and he's not running. Yeah, there is a lot of questions, and most people don't read them. And people like us.
That's the problem. The Democrats and the state administration, the governor, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, they're looking at all those questions, hoping they get lost in the mix.
Yeah. Well, they're going to do everything they can to keep as much power in their pocket as they can, in spite of the fact that our Constitution, which, just for the record for you non-historians, actually preceded the United States Constitution. The Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was in effect before the United States Constitution. And it clearly states that we are the government and that they are answerable to us. And what they're doing flies in the face of the Constitution of this state. And like I said, there are options. Hopefully, and I agree with you, the easiest way is to just kick it in the ass and shoot it down.
That's
And
it.
everybody that likes Linda, call Linda. Well, Linda only votes for Linda. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now,
Their political interest.
let's just bring up a couple of bits of history here. The people voted for term limits on the House, the Senate, and the governor. The Supreme Judicial Court overruled it and said, if you want term limits, have your elected officials have a constitutional convention to bring that before the voters as a constitutional amendment. How are you going to get the people to do that? That's a question that was posed to the judge. You know what the judge said? Elect the right people. A lot easier said than done. A lot easier said than done.
Yeah, and the judge should have said, the people have the right to do anything they want because that's what's in our Constitution.
Right.
And therein lies the problem. You will have to take everything. And like I said, I got my Powerball tickets again, 1.6 billion. I will sue and take them to the Supreme Court of the United States for stuff like this because I'll have the money. But nobody's got the money. Well, that's statewide questions, James. So we got a whole bunch of questions.
I agree, James, that we need ward counselors. But again, if we go with a form of government that has ward counselors and for at large, the city council abdicates its authority. What we want is ward counselors with the authority. So we have to do it one step at a time.
Yep. Cambridge, not Worcester.
Right.
Cambridge,
and that's
not
what we
Worcester.
have to do. One step at a time.
Yeah, well, Kadim, when he was city administrator, forgets that there was a time when two of the biggest proponents of this thing were in a room with me in Boston with some senators and some representatives. And Sean Kadim, as a city administrator, when he was a city administrator, so a long time ago, said that the city was in financial trouble. They were $500 million basically in the hole if all the bills came due. And Linda Pereira drove up to Boston for that meeting. And she was sitting in the room. And if they ever swore in under oath, she would have to admit that. 2 more years of Coogan and a blank check. We're not going to have to worry about the city of Fall River and what happens to the government because we're going to have a receiver. They're going to throw everything in a barrel when we're in receivership, and a receiver comes down here and has absolute power over everything. And that's what's going to happen.
You want police manning? You're not going to get it. You want fire manning? You're not going to get it. You want trash service? You're going to pay for it. You want reasonable water rates? You got to pay more. You want reasonable sewer rates? You got to pay more. That's what's going to happen with the receiver. And if this city gets a blank check that Sean Kadim wants, that's the next step.
Well, we're going to pay for everything, and it's the people's fault. People are going to have to try to move out of Fall River. That's all that's going to happen.
I agree with you, James. I believe that any time an elected official resigns, a special election should be held. Not this bullshit of, well, he came in 10th, so he's next. They weren't elected. So you have a special election.
Well,
yes, it's going to cost money, but guess what? Then you get people that are elected by the people.
Now you sound like Sean Kadim, huh? Oh, it's going to cost money. That's the thing, not to have elections. So problem is that elections is the best use of money a government can ever have to let the people speak. So, but they'll spend money on bullshit.
That's
like studies and stuff. But I got to look, every organization I've ever been in, a part of, normally has in their bylaws a mechanism where if somebody leaves office, elected office, with more than a year to go, there's automatically an election. Sometimes it extends to at least 6 months, depending on the length of the term of these offices. But normally, if there's more than half, more than a year on the term left, there's a special election. I agree. That's horseshit. I mean, people who weren't available in that first election might be available to run in a second one. They're not idiots. They're smart when it comes to making themselves rich, like Pelosi. Pelosi stayed in there for 172 years. I think she got the record now, right? She's been there. I think she was on the. She was in Congress with some of Washington's relatives. I don't know, and Jefferson's relatives. She made $56.9 million last year in insider trading. That's what you got in office here. You think that all the Richie Riches we got on the city council, Brad Kilby's going to wander over to the housing authority after he got thrown out, and he's going to boost his pension by $50,000 or $60,000. Everybody else has to work 32 years to get a pension. He's going to work the minimum and get it because they're going to take his high. He's going to get city council salary, which is, what are they getting now? 18 grand, 16 grand, some shit like that. I don't know. Some figure like that. So then he's not going to get a pension based on $16,000 or $18,000. He's going to get a pension based on $140,000, $150,000, which will be his paycheck over in a housing authority. And he admitted it. And I had witnesses that were standing there when I challenged on, and he finally admitted, well, you do it too. I said, no, I wouldn't. I work.
The fun part about it is he can't take a job at the housing authority for a year or two because of the restrictions placed on him that says once he leaves office, he can't take a city job.
Yeah, but it's not a city job. It's a federal.
That's what I said. That's not a city job.
That's why he's going there.
That's right.
That's why he's going there.
Right.
They're going to give it to him. If anybody complains, they're going to go, it's got nothing to do. It's a federal housing authority.
And by that, I think the federal housing authority should have their own pension system and their own healthcare system. Why are they on the city of Fall River? Get rid of them.
No, you're right, James. I mean, you can't argue with it. What you're saying is exactly right. But this is when people do not participate. People get the government they deserve. Look at little towns. They virtually have lynchings in Westport when they try to raise the taxes. Yeah. He was only an assessor for like a year. That won't really affect his pension dramatically because the rest of it is so low. He was a school teacher many years ago when teachers were making virtually peanuts.
Nothing.
Peanuts. Probably his city council salary is larger than his school teacher's salary was when he was there a zillion years ago.
But he's another one. But
his pension would not be dramatically
out of the Fall River system, so that he gets the Fall River health care.
His pension wouldn't be inflated. It's the law. I mean, if you worked, theoretically, there are a lot of people who do that. They worked in numerous capacities, and then they come back and get a job. I mean, why do you think Mary Sahadi took the full-time job and got the giant pay raise that she did, like 40 grand, and kept that job to get her high years to retire? She was already going to get a pension because she had been on the housing authority board paying into the system, because the housing authority isn't our pension system, even though it's federal. Not that I agree. It was there when I got there. but there is a stipulation in the Mass General Law that says that if approved, you can put people in that are not just from the municipality. And we have BCTC and the Housing Authority and all these other politically connected groups that got stuck into our retirement system to burden it. Never agreed with it, don't agree with it, would eliminate it in a heartbeat if I could, but you can't. They're in. It would factor in, but it would be a very, very small amount, Dan. It would be very, very small, because when you take the rest of the years and he's making 18 grand, even if he made 90 grand, then now you're going to take an average. It would increase it to, more than it should, but he couldn't stay in that position. But the problem is he would get back into his city position again, but he can't, as CJ said. He can't for a year. So they're going to stick him in the housing authority and say, hey, shut up. You can't say anything about that. This is a federal job.
And I still say
in our pension system.
Maybe we should get a ballot question removing BCTC and the housing authority and any other non-municipal systems out of the Fall River retirement system.
I am in total agreement. And a matter of fact,
wouldn't that be wonderful?
That might be.
You want to see how fast housing authority employees start retiring?
Yeah.
Just to be in the Fall River system?
Well, the nicest thing that could happen is the new council basically puts that forward and says, no, but right now, everybody else that's in, we can't take out, they're grandfathered in. But from this day forward, we're going to repeal this. Nobody's going to get into that system. Let them go into a federal retirement system or a retirement system of their own. And this is the key. And that would, but the next time they complain, and believe me, they're aware of it. I've talked to counselors when they complain about retirement, and I say the city wrecked the system by not funding it properly. But they've also strained that system drastically, not only by not paying on time, underpaying, but they also stuck all these politically connected groups in there. We have to take the people in the housing authority who get on a job at 50 in a manual labor job, and then 2 years later they go, oh, my back. Oh God, I can't move. Oh, Jesus. I can't. I got hurt on a job. Pension. Rest of their life. Non-taxable pension through the city of Fall River. Screw it. Let the feds pick it up. You know how
yes, James, you're right. $750 or $800 for a 3-bedroom before Paul Coogan took office.
Yeah.
And people were paying their mortgages with it, paying their taxes, paying their water bills.
No,
then Paul Coogan steps in and it goes up. And look at what they're doing. The Old Globe Mills. They gave them $3 million of taxpayer money to make market rate units. 89 market rate units. And CDA's taking credit because they're going to bring some affordable housing units in there. Number one, how many? And number two, what's the lottery going to be like for those people to get those units? And number three, is there enough parking? That's what I want to know.
There's never going to be enough market rate housing in this city. He hasn't built. Somerset built more market rate housing with a population of 18,000.
Gene, please don't use voice to text. I know it's easier for a lot of people, but what ends up happening is like what happened to Dave Mead. He was using it all the time, and his stuff started coming out as gibberish, and we couldn't put it up anymore.
Well, they got 89 Mercury units, and yeah, but they fall. Well, Gene, it's impossible to check anything because they use that gobbledygook of they will consider workforce housing as affordable housing, even though nobody in Fall River can afford it.
That's right.
They will use public housing and say it's affordable housing.
But Maura Healey and Paul Coogan said this is going to solve Fall River's housing problem. No, it's not. And Mike Sylvia from the Fall River Reporter is another one of the propagandists. That's not going to solve Fall River's problem because Fall River residents can't afford the units.
What, workforce
That's
housing?
just going to bring people from outside of the city here.
Yeah, and the only good thing about that is there'll be a big turnover for those people because nobody will stay here.
That's right.
Because the bottom line is, listen, we've said it a million times. This is intentional political,
Gobbledygook.
Yeah, and it's the House of Mirrors.
Right.
Oh, look at this mirror. Look at that mirror. Oh, we got workforce housing. That's really great stuff. Look, Maura Healey doesn't know shit. Bring Maura Healey down here. I'll debate her. I can guarantee you she doesn't know what the market, what the workforce housing rate is for the city of Fall River and our geographical area, because that's the way workforce housing is created on an average. So you explain to me how we're going to be able to afford it when I just read it from the United States Census Bureau that the per capita income in Seekonk is just almost as much as our household income. And there it is almost double. And their median household income is more than double ours. So now you go to Somerset. Their income is even higher than Seekonk. And you go to Westport. Theirs is even higher or as high. So you take the aggregate of all these areas and you say, okay, this is what workforce has. You have to make a minimum and a maximum. The minimum, most of the people in Fall River can't qualify for. The last time I checked the minimum, it was like, household was like $75,000.
The last time Michael Dion gave money out of CDA for affordable units was at the Alden Street Apartments at the Mill, the Curtain Loft Apartments, I think it was called, and they had three units, and 1,500 people were put into the lottery. That's like winning the Powerball.
Yeah. Well, you're not seeing.
It's a waste of money.
You're not seeing Maura Healey anywhere near a mic, maybe on a campaign trail. But you go to the open mic and start grilling her on what does she know about define workforce housing for me? What is the geographic? What are the minimum and maximum rates required for? Do you know what the average per capita income in the city of Fall River is? She'll go. Shut them off. Shut the mic. Get the stadies. Take them out of the building somewhere. That's what's going to happen because they don't want to hear this shit. You don't think Kadeem knows that nobody can afford anything? They are Kadeem. They've all been, except for maybe Michelle. They've all been accessories before, during, and after the fact for 6 years of the Coogan reign of terror. Yeah, and she's also paying through the nose probably too for the heat.
That's right.
So her electric bill must be through the ceiling. I agree, Linda. Look, these people are still pushing. They're all batshit crazy over the fact that Trump's taking their windmills, even though they've been proven totally ineffective, totally useless, killing wildlife and fish, birds and fish, totally useless. It's a big scam, just like global warming was a big scam. But they all got stocks. It was like that Granholm. Anybody remember Granholm? That was the energy secretary.
Yeah.
when they revealed that she bought all kinds of stocks in electric cars when they started with the electric car mandates, and she went, "Oh, I didn't know. I wasn't. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware that they were going to do that. Bullshit. You and Pelosi and all the rest of the clowns up there, you got insider information. You know what kind of stuff is coming down the pipe. You're the energy secretary. You didn't know they were going to mandate electric everything. So she buys all kinds of stocks in electric cars. It's like, wow, what a great investor. What a great investor. And Stevie B gave me the name from the. I didn't remember the name because I'm not a stock investor. If I would have invested in stock, I remember. But that one that everybody made a lot of money on from around here that got the insider information. They weren't politicians, but they were well-connected people here. Molten Metals. Remember that one, CJ?
Yes, I do.
They had a new technology, and their stocks went from like penny stock up to like big money. And then ultimately that thing got replaced with a new technology, and it's gone. But they bought the stock, they let it go up. I know one guy who bought it, and he waited till it made he had made virtually over 100%, like 200-300% profit on the stock that he bought. And he bought a lot of stock, and he dumped it. He said, "I don't care if it goes a little higher. I made my money on bailing." And this is what happens. Yeah. Look, James, they're putting illegals in market rate housing. They might not put them down on the Duval corridor, but they're going to get nobody in there. Who the hell is going to come here when you got a school system that's one of the lowest in the state? We're in the bottom. We're at the
bottom
top
10.
of crime. We're always at the highest crime rate. We've got an expensive but severely underperforming school system. And what's the first two things rich people look at when they relocate? I mean, it's not a guess by me. I know what statistically it is because people have studied it. They look at, if they've got children, first thing they look at is the school system. What school systems are available in the area? Their kids are going to college, and their kids want to go to school where they're not going to get beat up, and assaulted in the school. Second thing they look at is the crime rate. Yeah, well, Steve, I don't know. You might have been writing calligraphy. I don't know, Steve. I don't read calligraphy. But look, he had his chance. I met with him when he first came in. I gave him all the information that I gave that these people have ignored for 6 years about them, what happened with the health care. We were going to run out of money, and about the collective bargaining agreements, and how the retirement system got to where it is, and told him he could call me. And CJ had a conversation with him, I believe.
Yes, I did.
But he never called us back. He got in there and he became a politician. He said, "Oh, maybe if I get along with all these people, I'll get dragged in with them again." And if we would have had a better turnout, I think there would have been a lot more of them gone. The problem is that hindsight's 2020. We vote no matter, even if we know we're shoveling shit against the tide. I still go vote. I'm going to still put my 2 cents in there. I'm going to vote against these people. I'm going to vote for somebody else. But they're going to say, the other people said, "Oh, it's going to, nobody, he can't beat Cougar. Nobody really campaigned hard, blah, blah, blah." And Boomer Amaral gave him a hell of a scare. A hell of a scare. And I know that there's enough people out there that would have won in this election who said, the day after the election, "Son of a, if I would have known, if I only would have known, I would have got my lazy ass off the couch and voted." And they did. I mean, the turnout was abysmal. 12, and that's the other thing. CJ brought up the thing about the laws are not in our favor intentionally, by the way. Like to get an initiative petition, you got to get a percentage of the registered voters. Everybody on the planet that knows anything knows that our registered voter count is ridiculously high. I can guarantee you there's literally thousands and thousands of those people that have never voted because they were registered when they did business with the state in any capacity. You're automatically registered to vote. If you never have an intention of voting ever, you're automatically registered to vote. I want to see somebody take a look. I want to see Ryan Lyons, not that the election's over. I want to take a look. Look at the voter rolls. Look at the 50-some thousand, 55 or whatever. How many of those people haven't voted in the last 5 years and who were registered to vote over the last 10 years? I bet you the majority. No, I agree with you, but the fact is that defamation is not, I mean, you're not going to get anything in a defamation suit except having to pay the lawyer because there were no damages. I mean, Kevin didn't lose anything. There were no, because when you file a lawsuit, there are two elements in a lawsuit: liability and damages.
No, Fatima, only 16,000 people came out.
No, I think it was closer to 18, actually 17, around 17, which is more than any Coogan election.
Right.
But that was good for the city at the time, and it was December, and it was a single election. I mean, I think it outperformed almost all the primary elections previously and virtually all the regular elections at the time. So it was a decent turnout for that particular time. But we need, like I said, I think our voter registration is ridiculous. I mean, the state, and I'll bet you half of them are illegals. So, I mean, the way this state operates, I wouldn't be surprised. There was just an accident that somebody killed somebody in a vehicle, and I forgot his name, but it was a long, like Jose Gonzalez, whatever. And he hit somebody, killed a person in a car. The police chased him. He jumped out of the car, and they ran him down, and they arrested him. But of course, in Massachusetts, they won't say he's an illegal. They're just going to give his name and say he killed somebody. In Washington, they let the Indian truck driver who killed people on the highway out. Do you wonder why the country's a mess? Well, this is why. You live in states like this, where criminals are set free all the time. You wonder why people don't want to even, let alone come to Fall River, come to Massachusetts, period. Unless they're going to go teach at a nice college and get a big fat salary.
As I've always said, come to Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's right. Or Taxachusetts.
Or Taxachusetts, exactly. Gene's right. We made that same statement about Point Gloria.
No, we see how you're right, Gene. It's going to ultimately happen because these out-of-town developers are going to, you know what they'll do? They're billionaires. They're doing this all over the United States, all over the eastern seaboard. Remember there was that article we read on this show about they were doing it down the Cape?
Yep.
One of the same companies that was coming to Fall River was doing it down the Cape. Well, guess what? When it's happened before. You guys are probably, most of you are too young to remember, but Stop and Shop on Rodman Street, the plumbing place next to it, everything there for about 4 blocks south and basically
Arson Alley.
it was Arson Alley. There was the version of market rate housing or housing built big large structures for 4 solid blocks of these things. Like they looked like projects, but they were wood frame. They ended up all empty, in disrepair. And we had a fire there every single night for like 5 years in a row. And we put them out. And after they burnt them 4 or 5 times, they finally say that they're structurally unsound enough to beat them down. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I don't know. That might be an insult to meatheads. I don't know, Stevie. I mean, I don't know. But those houses are all burnt down. We had the same area down in North End where they built a whole bunch of complexes down there. A couple of developers did. They got burnt to the ground. That was in the days when we used to have 5,000 fires, 8,000 fires on a 4th of July weekend. Fall River was the only city that ever beat Fall River was Boston. We beat Worcester and Springfield in arson. We had more arson than any other community, probably for our size in the country, in the city of Fall River. I remember going before the council and making that presentation about Manning, which we didn't get again. But I told them, and they said, well, I said, I'll give you an example. Last quarter that they reported, New Bedford had 21 arson fires. And they went, oh, wow. Yeah, I said, Fall River had 528. And they went, no. I said, yeah. We had one every single night. It was like having a drill. Every single night, you'd wait till about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they'd go, still alarm. In case you don't know what that means it got called in. Smoke showing on Lonsdale or Lowell Street down in CJ's neighborhood. Yeah, right, CJ?
Huh?
No, that's what happened down there, Gene.
Yeah.
They burnt them, they repaired them, and then when they couldn't get anybody in them, they just let them keep burning until they got the insurance money.
Yeah.
That's what they did. And that's what's going to happen. Look what happened to Point Glory. Everybody forgot that already. They built that. That was going to be like the pearl of the Taunton River. We're going to get all the rich people in there, and it ended up Section 8 housing.
First mistake, condominiums on the waterfront, no balconies.
Yep.
First mistake.
Yeah. Well, the only thing they're going to sell on the Duval corridor is not condominiums. They might be selling condoms, but not condominiums.
And even then, they'll get stolen.
That's right. They'll get stolen. Yeah, we all know who tried that. And I mean, it's a shame. That's a very historical building in this city. It should have been revamped. It should have been. It was doing really well. It shows how Fall River has evolved to where they don't care at all about the people. Does anybody remember when the Bank Street Armory had all kinds of youth programs down there? They had one of the best.
They have everything down there: basketball, tennis, judo, arts and crafts, wrestling. You name it, they had it.
That's right, and they were really high level programs. They had
That's right, they were.
Actually, to show how far back that goes, I played in the National Guard basketball league at the Bank Street Armory.
Golden Gloves was
11
there.
and 12. And you know what else? They used to have boxing matches down there. And you know who fought his last fight at the Bank Street Armory for you boxing fans? Freddie Roach, the famous trainer who trains a lot of fighters. Freddie Roach fought his last professional bout at the Bank Street Armory, and I saw that bout. I was on actually Firewatch. But that was the last fight Freddie Roach ever fought, and it was at the Bank Street Armory. But the Bank Street Armory helped a lot of kids. They had a great judo program. They had a great every program. All that program. They had a great basketball league down there for years.
As I said in the weekend flush, okay, every good thing in Fall River costs too much money. So we'll put it off till tomorrow when it costs twice as much. And we won't.
But every bad thing they'll throw money at.
That's right.
That's the thing. Oh, that's right. You made me.
Funny, Stevie.
Oh, Steve, he's on it. He's on his. He's on his. That's right. I gotta check.
There are a lot of questions that weren't brought up during the mayoral race that should have been, but nobody who was running the questioning wanted to ask them, like the Flint neighborhood.
Well,
And that's what happened.
Since it's. Oh, Jesus Christ. I got a bet. I just had it. Timeout. I was getting your weekend plus because you got a couple of Christmas quotes. We'll do them. Okay, for those people who will be too busy going ho 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 on Wednesday at 11 in the morning. Another reminder. The opening quote for CJ's Flush this week was, "Christmas waves a magic wand over the world, and behold, everything is softer and more beautiful." Norman Vincent Peale. Great quote. However, I have to admit there's one exception to that quote. That's the city council meeting. It's never softer and more beautiful. I'm sorry. But, and then the closing quote from another guy who, little test, you guys, don't Google this, okay? Christmas is a season for kindling the fire for hospitality in the hall, the genial flame of charity in the heart. Washington Irving. What else is he famous for? All right, somebody give me an answer. Come on, don't Google it. Can somebody answer this right off the top of their head right now?
Of course they can't.
I don't see it. Somebody's Googling.
They're all Googling.
Washington Irving. Easy one, guys. No? No takers?
Give them the answer so I can close out the show.
The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
There you go. Thank
Headless
you.
Horseman.
There you go. Thank you. Reminder, Wednesday's show will be at 11 a.m. because it will be Christmas Eve. I hope you can join us. If not, have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you Friday at 5.
Ciao.
Thanks for watching, and ciao. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Merry Christmas, everyone.
He played for the war. Oh, jeez.